Good day, everybody, and welcome to Small Biz Aid Live. Our session today is entitled Meeting Online Demands, and in a moment, I'm going to introduce you to your session moderator. Please use our session's Q&A section to ask your questions. We will be monitoring live chat if you place your question there. I will review these questions and direct them to our moderator, but please be aware our audience size might mean that your specific question will not be answered. But please join our Alignable Small Business Groups at the end of this session to continue the dialogue. Links to these groups will be provided in chat at the end of the session and are also posted on our agenda at smallbizaid.org. It's now my pleasure to introduce you to your session moderator, Maureen Plowman.
Thanks so much, Dave, and hello, Small Business Aid. A special hello out there to all the Alignable members, and welcome to Meeting Online Demands. As Dave mentioned, I'm Maureen Plowman, the Vice President of Marketing at Alignable. I'm a career marketer with a focus on small business and tech. I'm really excited to be here today for a few reasons. First one is that I really, truly believe that all of you are really the heart and souls of our community. I have a husband that is a small business owner, and he's just starting to come into recovery now. And I am pretty confident that this great lineup of speakers that we have today is going to leave you with some great tips and some things that you can do to help your business. Also, I'm really passionate about creating exceptional customer experiences. And I think this topic is just so relevant today. So as I mentioned, we have an all-star lineup. I personally think this is going to be the best session of the day. I've already learned a great deal from these speakers just in the last few days, and I'm sure you will as well. So let me introduce you first to Stoney DeGator. Stoney is an innovative digital marketing leader and speaker with a strong focus on transformative digital marketing strategies. He's also the author of the Best Damn Website and E-commerce Marketing Optimization Guide, period. So lots of great experience there. We also have Ernest Epps, who is an international speaker and an e-commerce expert specializing in high-ticket drop shipping. And I'm not sure if Matt has dropped, but Matt Mansfield will also be joining us. He's the president of Mad About Business. He's a passionate content creator and specializes in researching and breaking down complex topics. He's also a SEO manager at Small Business Trends, so brings a lot of relevant experience to driving traffic and using content. So a little secret, we're going to get these guys to give us all of their secret tips today, not just the ones they give all their regular folks, but really the special ones focused around small businesses. So why don't you each say a quick hello and just, tell our amazing audience why you're excited to be here today. Why don't we start with you, Stoney?
Hi, everybody. I think this is just so cool. I'm glad to be involved. I'm hoping that I can impart some wisdom and information that's valuable, and hoping to get something too as well. And I'm sure I will. So I just appreciate the invite and glad to be here.
Excellent. Great. Ernest?
Hey, everybody. Man, I'm just super pumped up because I just know with the lineup that we have today, just throughout the course of the day, that you guys are just getting just rock solid content and information that will literally change the trajectory of your business. Maybe add a couple zeros, not just one, but maybe a couple after today. So I am super excited just to be here, just to share, just to serve, but also just because I know what's going to come out of this event from all the lives that are going to get impacted and all the businesses that are going to be able to grow, scale, and hit new revenue goals that you've never seen before. So let's get it started, baby.
All right. And Matt, great timing. If you just want to just say a quick hello to the audience and just let them know why you're excited to be here today. And then maybe Matt can't hear us. All right, Matt, we're going to come back to you in just a minute. So, as Ernest said, let's get right into it. In today's digital first world, consumers have different expectations as they did even a year ago. The way they do business is different. The way they purchase is different. They might start off on their mobile, and then they might, transfer and go to your website. They might come to your store. Really both on and offline channels are blurred now, and they're both still an extension of your brand. Your online reputation as a business and a business owner becomes that much more important now. But there are some clear ways that are emerging to influence their purchase. So some stats I looked at earlier today showed that e-commerce and websites that use interactive content influence a purchasing decision by 92%. Brands that use personalized promotions can see an 85% influence in purchasing power. Product reviews influence at 82%, and just having a simplified shopping cart can influence purchases at 78%. So why don't we start with you, Stony? Why don't you talk to us a little bit about usability, what we mean by that, and how do we meet those online expectations?
Yeah, usability or user experience is really the focus on the visitor themselves. I came up in the age of SEO being the primary marketing tool, and it was all about optimizing for search engines. And we soon realized that the search engines aren't our customers, people are. So we had to start shifting the focus not away from search engines, but understanding that we have to meet the customer's needs. And the user experience is all about figuring out how to meet the customer's need, and especially as they are moving from device to device. Meeting the need might be different on mobile versus it is on your desktop platform or your main website, through a computer and through a tablet. People might be using those for very different things. So it's important to look at how people are using your website, what device they're using it on, and what's the best way to deliver them the best experience possible through that medium.
That's great advice. Matt, can you hear us now?
I can. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, great to hear your voice.
Excellent.
Yes.
Very sorry for my technical glitches at the beginning.
No problem. So, do you want to just maybe build a little bit off what Sony said and talk a little bit about, what are some elements that are important to think about when it comes to designing with the user in mind?
I absolutely agree. I think one of the things that people kind of forget is that we are selling to humans, and they're coming to your website or to your app or whichever way they're coming to you for a reason, especially if you're a business who sells something, a service or a good. And so it's really your job to make it as easy as possible for them to achieve what they're trying to do. And that's actually a win for you as well, because if you actually get them where they want to go and make it easy for them to do what they need to do, which is all about usability, then you're going to be happy, they're going to be happy, and we could all go on our way and hopefully have a return customer. So it's very important to keep that person in mind when you're designing usability and thinking about why they are coming to your site and helping them do what they're trying to do there.
Great. Ernest, do you want to add to anything to that?
Yeah, I mean, those were some great insights. And the other thing I want to hit home with everyone too. I believe it was Stoney who had mentioned about just mobile. Like in this day and age, what you got to understand is most consumers are now like way more responsive and just doing inquiries and purchases and everything on mobile devices, right? So with that being said, start with mobile first, right? Like I don't know the specific statistics off the top of my head, but it is an absurd amount of users that are coming to your sites in mobile version, right? So with that being said, from a usability perspective, with your designer, or if you're doing it yourself, what you got to understand is that because in order to design your store, obviously aesthetically and stuff, you got to start in a desktop format. But what you need to do is you need to make sure, like with every edit, change, experience that you're looking to layer into your business and your website, that you go and check how the mobile version looks first and reverse engineer some of those aesthetics to make sure they look friendly in desktop. But you really need to put a strong emphasis on mobile, because that's where a majority of your visitors are going to come from. I could tell you personally from one of my stores that I sell wine storage with that I've been running for the last 7 years, that I want to say it's about 80% of my traffic comes from mobile, right? So imagine something looking really great on desktop. You're like, man, it looks really awesome. It's sexy. It's like it looks great, and then you never take the time to look at the mobile version, because again, we're focused on desktop because aesthetically that's how we have to build it. And you never look at that, and then it's like text could be overlapping and image might not display correctly. Like I had a client I remember where he had put in a line of code for like a discount or coupon or something, so someone could click on, and again it looked great on desktop, and he was wondering like, man, why are my mobile sales just so low? Like they just weren't really converting on mobile. And then, we just did a small little split test talking to each other. And lo and behold, it was just like this, like the everything aesthetically, it was like one little line of code that made everything overlap. We made that shift. And I mean, literally it was an extra, $5,000 to $10,000 he made within like the next couple of weeks just by one little shift, because we didn't take a look at the mobile version, essentially when we relaunched everything. So start with mobile first, keep that top of mind, and let your designers know, because I know most of y'all are probably like, man, I'm not touching a website, and I get it. So keep that mobile first in mind.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think it's always that balance of having your site look good, but also be easy to navigate around, which also lets me think about, how important is clarity in a website? So you feel that, there's so many, right now, people are so exposed to digital all the time. There have so many messages coming at them. How important is it to keep your site simple and kind of a clarity of purpose, so that when visitors come, it's very clear, you're kind of laying that groundwork for a clear and easy experience? So Stoney or Matt, do you want to take that one?
I'm happy to talk about that. I think it's very important. And I see this all the time when I go to a site. I just want to do one thing, and it just takes me forever to figure out how to do that one thing. And I think that when those steps are laid out in the right way, and you're clear when somebody moves around your website, the information they're getting or the function that they want, like to buy your product, is really easy to get to. Because I have seen sites where I come in and I want to do something, I want to upgrade, let's say I want to buy a server for a year and I'm going to use a virtual server and I want it for 3 years. Well, they didn't make it easy for me to make it for 3 years. I had to figure out how to up the amount of time I had to do it. Well, why should that be hard? It's ridiculous, because I'm just like leaving money on the table as a business if something like that is difficult to do. So clarity, where to go next, what the next step to take is a real key, I think, to success online and digitally.
Yeah.
What about relevant? Oh, go ahead, sorry.
I was going to say, there's nothing more frustrating as a consumer when companies make it hard for me to give them my money. You would think that they want to make that as easy as possible. And so it's really important, like Matt said, to just look at some of these things and are you making these processes easy? Use analytics to see how people are using the site, what things they want, and use that to inform design decisions and use UX decisions. It's very important.
Yeah, so it's almost
can I say one more thing on that? Because I actually have an example I found interesting. We have a lot of articles on these on small biz trends. And one of my favorite statistics was that 52% of shoppers won't buy with you online if the return process isn't clear. So if they don't know how to return something, they're not even going to buy anything. And as a consumer yourself, you know that if they make it a pain to get a product back to them, you don't want to buy from them. So these are things that, again, being clear and showing people exactly how to do things really makes a difference.
Even being clear about how to cancel, right? How to cancel your subscriptions. People don't have to hunt to find it. I think that just increases your trustability as a business.
Absolutely.
So about similar to clarity, relevance. So how do you understand your visitor's mental model and how they would and maybe Stoney, you got to some of this with kind of thinking about how people use your site, but I guess just some tips on how to understand that mental model and how they would expect you to structure the content on your site.
Yeah, I mean, I think we got to realize that there's a lot of different types of users on our website. There's people at different education levels, people at different understanding of the product and what their goals are. And the website has to meet all of those different needs. And that's why it's important to do personas and things like that, to put that together and figure out, who's the bulk of your audience and what different ways are they, what are they needing from the site? They all have different goals. And then you use that information to build navigation, making sure you have different avenues of finding the type of information that each persona would be looking for. And you can use keyword research to do a lot of that as well. So it's really important not just to get a singular focus, depending on your industry, of course, but Really look at what do different types of people want and how do I make each of those avenues available for that type of visitor.
Okay, that makes sense. And we touched a bit on the credibility, showing people how to return things, how to cancel. What are some other ways to show credibility and to build trust online? Ernest, do you
Well,
want to
there's
take
a
that
lot
one?
of. Oh,
Yeah.
you want? Go ahead.
Yeah, no, yeah, we could both chat on it, Matt. I mean, one of the biggest things, I mean, and it's so simple. I remind people all the time is like, what is it that you're looking for when like you go to a site, right? Like I think oftentimes as business owners, like we forget about like we want to put like the nice, descriptions and features or write the great articles and stuff like that. But what is it that you're really looking for when you say, hey, I want to pull the trigger to do business with someone? What are the things that you look for in order to do that, right? And I think we had touched base on this very, very slightly in the beginning, which is like the reviews, right? Like we all love the reviews, right? If you guys can like nail this bad boy in, I mean, in every aspect of your business with a product and service, showing what other people's experiences, because that's the number one thing. Like that's why we look at reviews, right? We want to know what was the other person, what was the other business experience with either the business, the product, the service, any of the above, right? And so it's really taking the time to, really develop strong relationships with your first initial customer base to get those reviews. So, if you got to take a small percentage out of your margin to incentivize people, if you have to go meet with customers face to face and say, hey, let's shoot some content so you can tell us about your experience, like whatever you have to do, I'm telling you, get those reviews initially in the beginning if you do not have them. Video content, if you can, is like 10 times better. But worst case scenario, if you can get it written with a photo or something like that, that'll do just fine. But I'm telling you, this right here, the reviews will literally help you accelerate your success to another level if you haven't already started doing that. So making sure that you layer that in. And then there's other little things that you could do too, such as, trust seals. Those are things like McAfee or Norton. So, for example, if you have an online store, you can get what's called Norton Shopping Guarantee, which will give an incentive actually to your customers to want to do business with you because how their sale works, it'll get listed on your site. You can click on it and they'll see that there's a purchase guarantee. There's actually a price match guarantee. And guess what? When you as a customer get that from Norton, that's not something you pay for. Norton actually pays for that. So, imagine being able to now give yourself like a small extra USP for shopping on your store, which some of your customers are that go to your competitors might not be looking at leveraging, right? And then the last thing that I'll say just with reviews is like once you get them, show them, right? It's so frustrating when you see a business like. I go to someone's website and I'm just like, oh, let me see the reviews. And like, I got to fight to find the reviews. I'm like, where are the testimonials? Where are the reviews? And they're like in the footer of the website. And I love using my mom as an example because, I like to optimize for my mom's experience because I'm generally trying to attract people like her, middle class, upper middle class, they don't necessarily like to shop on the internet, but they need that experience to be really good in order for them to feel comfortable for making the buying decision, right? And so my mom is not someone that would be like, I wonder where the reviews are. Let me go to the footer of the website. She would never say that, right? Or credit card logos. This is another thing. I used to optimize a lot of websites and put the credit card logos at the top of the website or at minimum at above the right under above the add to cart buttons. And that would significantly improve the experience for users and improve conversion rates. Because again, my mom would not be someone that goes to the bottom of the website and be like, let me go to the footer and see if they accept American Express. Like, no, she needs to know that when she gets there, right? So again, those are just a couple little small things like again, moving payment options in terms of what you accept, above the fold or at least at the top real estate of your business or website if you're taking transactions online, and then also with your reviews, making sure that they're easily accessible, that people can get to them and see them, and if you have the ability to, give video, written, and photo testimonials.
Yeah, all great
Yeah.
tips. I think it goes back to that ideal customer, knowing who your ideal customer is, right? And really thinking about them. What do they think? What do they hear? What do they say? And I think not being afraid to ask your customers, as you're designing your site, take a look, what's your feedback? Matt, I want to get to, I know you had a few points there as well.
No, that's okay. I just, first off, I want to say I totally agree about reviews. I think we have a statistic with something like 85% of people read customer reviews before they buy a product. I mean, it is just so important, and they better be positive, or at least some of them. So that's a really big thing. The other thing I wanted to discuss is, again, knowing your audience. B2B and B2C are very different. All right, if I go to Ernest, liquor store, well, I'm going there to buy alcohol. It's a pretty straightforward transaction. I know what liquor is, and I know what it does, and I'm like, woohoo, liquor. And I buy it. But if I go to somebody's site and it's a B2B thing, I want to see some case studies. I want to see the ways people have used a product or a service. I want to understand it. So you really need to orient your site again towards the people who are coming. And those two markets are very, very different. And so it's important to keep that in mind. And service versus product is also kind of different. So again, you need to think about, if you're selling a service, you need to build trust much higher than when you're selling a product. And so testimonials are even that much more important.
Yep, totally agree. Stony, I know you've got a great website design checklist that you've published. I'd love you to share some tips for that. And then we do have a question around accessibility issues in web design. So how does that play into kind of some of the things that you should be focused on?
Yeah, with the web design checklist, there's just so many things. But I think the starting point for that is finding a website designer / developer that truly understands digital marketing and SEO, or have an SEO work with your developer and designer to make sure that what they are producing is going to give you the result that you want. A lot of designers focus on the visuals. They'll make a site that looks great, but they don't have the understanding of the architecture, or sometimes even the coding issues that need to be put in place before you roll out a website. So very important to get an SEO on board or a developer who has that understanding built in. And just because they say they do doesn't mean that they do. A lot of times the designer's idea of SEO is, we optimize some tags. And that's just barely scratching the surface. So I would say that's step one, and probably the most important step when it comes to web design. And then with that SEO on board, they can work with the designers, they can work with you to make sure everything's done in a way that when that site rolls out, it's actually going to benefit you and not hurt you, which oddly enough, a poorly designed site can hurt you when it rolls out.
Okay.
Actually, I would just add to that, the poorly designed. Google is rolling out their Site Vitals update coming this July. And that means that Google's going to be looking at your speed of your page loads and other statistics on your on page. So if your site isn't acting up to snuff, they're going to probably ding you a little bit. So it really does become very important to have that technical side of things handled. Luckily, that's kind of like the cookie cutter stuff. There's a lot of things on how to make your site faster and better. You just have to not fight against it because you want like the prettiest design or something else. You have to balance those two things together.
Great advice.
Yeah. Maureen, you mentioned accessibility issues as well. And I think that's one of the things that is often overlooked even in marketing and SEOs. We just don't often think about it as much because it doesn't necessarily help with the rankings, or it's not a pure usability issue. It's kind of just for a very small subset. But oftentimes it's very little bit of work to make a site accessible to all your audience. So it's usually beneficial, and in some cases just have to do it, because the laws are moving in that direction where your website is considered like a physical store. So you have to make it accessible. So, it's a good idea to have an understanding of what some of those issues are that you need to do. Some things are very, very easy to do. Other things might require a little bit of work, but, it's never a good idea to alienate your audience, no matter how small. So, in digital marketing, we're always looking at how to get more of our audience to our site, engaging with our site, buying our products or services. And the fewer people you alienate for one reason or another, the better off you're going to be.
Yeah,
There's actually tools out there that are automated for this now. So it's really nice to be able to just like get that tool put on your site and bam, you have accessibility. So there's a lot of really great things coming down the pipeline to make it easier.
We talked a little bit in the beginning about the fact that, customers are coming in from different places, mobile, desktop, coming in your store. There's other places on the web where your businesses are, whether it be forums or blogs. How do you interact consistently across all of those places with your customers?
It's hard. Social media itself, all the different avenues, that it is very, very difficult. And that is why people hire people to do nothing but social media or social media and content and whatnot. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of effort, but there's a big payoff for it depending on your industry. And I've been in digital marketing for 20 years. I've had clients that just absolutely did not want to do social media. And I got it. They just looked at it as this is a big time suck. And it can be, but at the same time, if you do it right and you make it fun, it can be highly valuable.
And Matt, how does SEO play into that as well?
Well, that's a good question. You want to have a unified presence online is the buzzword around it, which means that, you're talking about the same things, you're pushing forward the same things. You want to respect, and Google does respect, when you're getting traffic from social, it's a little proof to them and also proof to your customers that people are, interacting with you and engaging. Engagement really is king. But as Stoney said, if you open a channel, you got to manage that channel. So, I mean, that's really a very difficult thing. You can boost your SEO by being on social media. You can boost your SEO by, posting on other people's sites. Make sure your message is clear and just be aware that you're opening a channel of communication. So you have to monitor that channel of communication. If you don't, people are going to stop interacting with you, and then Google's going to say, well, nobody ever comes from their Facebook anymore. So, boy, that's proof that they're not very engaging or relevant. Well, and I drop them in rank a little bit, and these are all the off-site, little markers that Google is likely looking for. They have lists of thousands of things they're looking for, and I'm sure that's one of them.
Yep. And Ernst, I know you have some experience with more of the high-ticket items. How does some of the best practices and tips maybe differ when you're dealing with more premium type items on your site?
And I mean, the thing is, and that I'll remind people because I got a couple different businesses and stuff that I run, right? From service, agency, digital, and physical products, right? So once you start to learn these principles, they're kind of universal, right? So for example, we were just talking a little bit about SEO and how does that impact social, right? So Google specifically calls it social signals, right? So to the point, I think it was Matt that had mentioned how they like look at that in terms of like your ranking, right? So they're looking and seeing like, hey, from these links that are coming from like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok now even, right? Like what is like, are they, are the links coming in, number one, number two, like what's the level of engagement? And then again, it plays into a small ranking factor, like with your site in general, right? So as you open up, what I would say is like, number one is that I would like reverse engineer the process, right? So we're talking about multi-channel marketing, but reverse engineering in a sense of like, see where most of your customers and stuff are coming from, number one, and then number two, start to build around, that particular channel, right? So for example, and we talked about tools. So let me give you guys two tools that can help you guys out with this. One tool is called Google Analytics. I'm pretty sure, hopefully all you guys are familiar with it. If you don't have it installed, get that installed like today. Like do not go to bed without having Google Analytics on your store. for tracking purposes, because all this data stuff and making decisions based off of user behavior, you do not have to guess. This is not a guessing game. And that's the thing I love about digital marketing and online marketing, is that we don't ever have to guess about anything. We can literally look at the data at any given time, tell what type of customers are coming into our websites and stores, what type of behaviors do they have, meaning like, for example, Google measures what's called bounce rate, which means like the percentage of people that come to your site, they have a good experience and then leave. Like, is that really high? So like a 99% bounce rate would be horrific, right? So you want that as low as possible. So again, you don't have to guess. So make sure that you get that installed. There's another tool called Google Search Console. And these are free too. You don't have to like pay for these unless you don't know how to code, which is not that difficult. But again, a developer can put this on your store like or website within like minutes. Okay. So Google Search Console, that's another thing that'll help you get indexed and be able to monitor what's actually allowing you to rank, and then you can start to build a game plan around that for SEO purposes, right? But in essence, right, is just, looking at the data and then building a game plan around that. So if you notice that only 10% of your traffic is coming from Twitter, and then you got 40% coming from Facebook and another 30% coming from LinkedIn, it's like, okay, well, let me focus on building relationships with those two channels first. And then you might have forums and blogs and stuff where people are commenting. But again, in most cases, we're small businesses, right? Like, we don't have, 10,000 employees working for us. So you can start to then game plan with yourself or even your staff and say, hey, I want you guys to mainly focus on these channels because this is where we're getting the most activity. And then again, start to eventually manage the other channels as you start to notice that the activity increases. And then also, lastly, I would say is with that, like another layer deeper is like, see where the conversions are actually coming from. Even then, if you're like, oh man, I don't know if I could do Facebook and LinkedIn at the same time. Okay, well, even though 30% of the traffic is coming from LinkedIn, if that's 20% of your conversions, then, all right, let me focus on LinkedIn because everything else that necessarily isn't converting as high as that particular channel. So make data-driven decisions and, take the guesswork out of your business because you don't have to guess with digital marketing. Get those tools installed and you will be able to make educated decisions.
Perfect. So two other questions that have come in somewhat related. So, we talked about using Google Analytics and things, knowing small business owners are on a tight budget. Are there any resources that they could go to for SEO help? Any sites you suggest, or is there any, perhaps Chambers of Commerce might have some recommendations, but any sites that you guys have come across that are helpful for people as they're thinking about SEO on their website?
Yeah, I'm a big fan I'm a big fan of Search Engine Journal and Search Engine Guide. Those are two websites that cover this industry very, very well. And everything's topical, so whatever your niche is, you can dive into that pretty deep and get just about everything you need.
One more time with those, Donnie, the names one more time.
Search Engine Journal and Search Engine Land.
Okay.
Yep.
Put those in the chat.
Those two are my favorite.
Mm-hmm. And then we did talk about knowing where your traffic is coming from. And just to go back a bit, we talked about really understanding your ideal customer. And someone did have a question on, how do you determine who your ideal customer is? So if the three of you look across your businesses, how have you been able to figure out who's that ideal customer that you really want to focus on and design your site around? Are there tips people can use to do that?
I mean, this comes back to old-fashioned market research. A lot of times, and I've seen this, as the web has kind of grown, a lot of people get focused on my website, and it's really your business. And just because you're doing everything 100% online does not mean that you're not doing a legitimate business, that all of these other 100-year-old business principles don't still apply. They do. We're just in a different avenue and medium for it. So you have to do your research.
Okay, good. All right, let's pivot a bit to talk about, what are some pro tips for growing your e-commerce site? We talked about using some reviews. What are some other things that people could think about? I'm going to go with Ernest. There we go.
Yeah, I mean, paid advertising, like I know we talked about SEO a lot, and I'm kind of sitting here just kind of cringing a little bit because as much as I love SEO, you can't control it. You can't make it give you more customers or more visitors. But you can do that with paid advertising, right? Like you can turn an ad on and get visitors like in minutes, right? So I would say definitely like paid advertising, and just doing some research and figuring out which channel to start with, because I know once you say paid advertising, you're like, oh my god, like there's Facebook, there's YouTube, there's LinkedIn, like there's blogs, there's native ads, there's GDN, there's text ad campaigns. Like what the heck do I do? So back to what Stony just mentioned, research, right? And once again, we don't have to guess, okay? So one of my favorite tools to get a lot of analytical data and remove the guesswork out of stuff is a tool called SimilarWeb. And again, I'll say it's SimilarWeb. So if you go to similarweb.com, and you could use the free version. Don't get upsold. You don't have to pay $500 if you don't want to. I still use what I call the homie version, right? The free one. So with this tool, though, it will actually, if you just have already done some research on your competitors, you can plug in their websites, right? The top websites in your industry, and you could literally see where their traffic is coming from, right? So you can see, are they taking time to spend it on Facebook? Are they using YouTube? Are they using TikTok? Like this tool will give you that data, so you don't have to guess, right? And you say, okay, out of the top 10 websites in my industry, 90% of them are using, or 9 out of the 10 are all using Facebook. So maybe I should start there, right? And then you can start to go to their pages. Even Facebook now, you can access all their ads. Like you don't even have to pay for tools to access people's Facebook ads anymore. You can literally go to their page, go to the Facebook library, and boom, everything they're spending money on, you now have access to, right? So how to write your copy, what creatives to use, whether they're doing slideshows, video ads, or just photo ads, you can see all of their ads. So you can say, oh, well, I'm going to focus on these type of ads. So yeah, just remove the guesswork out, use some tools, do some market research. But paid advertising is what's going to really allow you to accelerate your success at a very fast pace.
Okay. Have either of you had experience with things like upsells? So, putting things together in the cart. So people that buy this usually buy this together. Or another idea also around abandoned cart emails. So triggering some abandoned cart emails to people that maybe have left something and couldn't make a decision. Any of you have had experience with things like that?
I always find those a little creepy sometimes, I guess. And it really depends on your level. I mean, like I'm a person who doesn't mind that Amazon knows every single thing I do because I buy so much on Amazon. So I like getting the recommendations and whatnot. But having a site that I don't really know say, hey, you left this in your cart. I'm like, yeah, I ran away, so don't follow me. So, I think there's some to that. Um, so that's my take on that. I do, it does show that following up on abandoned carts actually works.
Mm-hmm.
So, I always say if something works, people should do it. That's why we still get telemarketing calls, even though we hate them. So, those are the kind of things that, an abandoned cart follow up is definitely a good thing. I would automate. I mean, there's so much you can do. I mean, in answering the question, going back one, I would kill people with information. So, when somebody's buying online, they're really unsure and they're getting much more comfortable now, but they're still unsure. Is this a real business? Am I going to get my product? Where's the product coming from? Is it coming from overseas? Is it coming from here? They want to know their tracking number. They want to know where they are in the process all the way along the way. So to me, killing them with information makes them feel really comfortable. And then following up with them after they've done the sale gives you repeat customers, saying thanks and, doing those sort of things that, normally in a store you would do that anyway. If somebody bought something, thank you very much, come on by again. Oh, we're having a sale next week, come on by our store then. We'll have some great deals. Those kind of things and those follow-ups, I think can really boost your bottom line. They sound really basic, but a lot of people just don't do them. So it's an important factor.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. All that was super, super important. I mean, that's the easiest way to help you guys like capture lost revenue, right? Like when I see a business not have a follow-up sequence put into place, especially like, if it's a business where you're making a transaction, like whether it's like, hey, I'm buying this service for like lawn care and like people can purchase on your website. Because the thing is that people get distracted from all sorts of stuff. We just talked about the mobile stuff earlier, right? So if someone started on mobile, like grandma could have called, my kids, somebody could have fell off the bike, like, whatever the case is, there's all these scenarios. And it didn't mean that they didn't have intentions on purchasing. It just meant that something could have possibly came up in that purchasing process, right? And the thing is, if you're not top of mind, you're out of mind. I would write that one down. That's a good one. So having that sequence to like follow up with people again, especially I've implemented that on the service side. And like we literally seen, it was like a 22% increase in revenue when we started to do those abandoned car sequences. Because obviously I do it selling physical products. I know the power of it, and it never dawned on me to like do it on the service side, because I'm just like, oh, maybe it's a little weird, it's different over there. But I think it was Matt that just said, hey, even though it's weird, do it anyways, right? So yeah, I mean, put that into your business, especially if there's a checkout component on your website. Super duper critical for you being able to layer that in.
Yeah, the company I work at, Socket Mobile, we've had a lot of good success with the abandoned cart emails, and we weren't even sure. I mean, we implemented, we made sure we had the data tracking for it, so we can look every month how many emails went out and where did people buy. And interestingly enough, it's the third email that seems to do the best. They get the first one, the second one, it's that third one. And oftentimes that third one is, okay, you get a discount. At that point, we're offering the discount, and they'll take advantage of that. But at every level, they do seem to work. They bring people back. It is that top of mind thing. People just tend to forget. They get interrupted.
And just one thing, Ernest, you mentioned a website just a few minutes ago that we didn't capture.
Was it the SimilarWeb?
I think so.
Yeah, it's called SimilarWeb. I'm actually pulling it up on my side. I'm terrible with spelling, so
Okay.
let me Google it myself. So yeah,
All
it's
right.
SIMILAR Web WEB. So SimilarWeb.
Okay, perfect. Got it. Thank you. Okay, so we've got, Dave's going to be chiming in, the voice of God, in a minute, telling us we have about 10 minutes left. So let's talk a little bit about, what are the most important questions your website should answer, and then a little bit about FAQs and providing that information proactively. I know we talked about video being a great way to engage people. What are some of your thoughts on that?
I would say the most important question to answer is, what value are you bringing to the customer? Whether it's product or service, what are they going to get? How are you making your life better? What needs are you meeting? What problems are you providing solutions for? And it's amazing how often we forget to do that. We talk about what our product does, but we often forget to put ourselves in the mind of the person using it and what it means to them.
Matt, you want to add anything to that? Yep.
I'm a big believer in customer self-service. I like, when a customer can come to a site and they can figure out everything that they need to figure out, whether that's, a Q&A, a FAQ page, or a knowledge base, if you're more of a tech company or a service company, and people can figure out what's going on their own. Another interesting statistic I pulled out, and this is from 2019, so it's like before and after COVID, so I don't know if it's still the same. But 60% of people like to talk to a small business on the phone still. And that may not be as true online, and many entrepreneurs want to start, hey, I'll start a drop shipping business. I never need to talk to the customers. Great. Well, there are a lot of customers that are going to want to call you. So, having your phone number on a website, especially if you're a brick and mortar, but you have an online, website, is absolutely critical. Letting people contact you by phone and get in touch to answer their questions, just because they want to make sure there's a person behind the website, is really, really important and one of those major trust factors. So while it's good to have that online, and again, I'm a huge believer in customer self-service. I love when I can go back to a site, look up my order and see where it is in the process. Has it shipped yet? Is it being, put together? Whatever. So those kind of things are the questions they come with. Now, the question they're coming with in that case is, how's my order? Where is it? What's going on? But I think it's really important that they can answer that question. If they could do it without having to bother you, even better, because again, we are small businesses. We don't have staff sitting there waiting. But I just think those having that information available at their fingertips is very important.
And what about how to use your product, right? How to use your product or service, or examples of others using it?
I love that customer created content. My favorite things are like seeing other people wearing a shirt, or something that you want to buy. It's like, oh, that looks pretty good on them. Oh, okay, I'll buy that or whatever. Or especially, like, was it easy to put together if it, takes assembly or, again, it comes under testimonial in a way, but, it's sort of a more sophisticated testimonial. It's like, hey, this was, really easy to use, or, hey, this site is great. I get all my liquor here because, it comes fast and it's really easy to check out. I mean, those kind of things, people like to hear from other people. They don't really want to hear from you because you're always going to say something. My site's the best one to buy stuff on. So, so it is important to have that. And I love user created content like that. I think it's really fun.
And what about customer forums? So I think sometimes, it can be a scary thing for people to kind of get their customers talking, but overall, it helps to build your brand and kind of to create this community around your brand. What are your thoughts on that?
I think anything you can do to build your brand is smart. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. And sometimes, it's about how you communicate on your website. Sometimes it's about how the visuals that you choose. And then a lot of times it's going to other places offsite and participating in the conversation, whether it's forums, answering questions, or even asking questions. I mean, that can be a valuable way to build brand if you're not there just to, faking ask questions, but you're out there legitimately asking and looking for answers and things like that. But anything you can do to engage with your audience is a win.
I love forums because you can put customers in charge of answering other people's questions. And sometimes you get the most amazing customer champions through that way and customer evangelists, and you don't have to spend a dime because they love it. They're like, yeah, I'm like, look at this icon next to my picture on the forum. I'm the rep or whatever the name, they call you, I'm the top commenter. And so people really like that. But I think it plays to a very specific type of product. I wouldn't put it on every site. I think it's for products or services that have like a longer going thing. It works really well in tech sites, in tech services and tech products.
All right, so I'm going to ask the audience to just think about any more questions you might have for this great panel. And while they're doing that, I'm going to ask Ernest, you and Matt and Stony, what's your best advice? One or two top things that people should walk away with today? It could be something we already talked about, or just something you just want to reiterate with the audience. And don't forget, these are your secret tips. These aren't the ones just for everybody.
All right, so everybody has to send me $50. No, now I think the number one thing to take away for this is every customer is a person. Every visitor to your website, well, unless they're a bot, is a person, and they're coming there with a reason, and they're coming there looking for something, and that's the reason why they clicked on the link on a Google search or got the link from a friend or whatever. And you have to treat that person like you would if they were walking into a physical store, with respect, clearly, get them to what they need fast, and help them succeed. Even if you're just selling a product, help them get what they want, and you will always win, because that's exactly what business is all about.
Yeah, I would, no matter how much you try and you want to create that best experience, answer all the questions, make sure people are finding everything they need, you can't stop stupid. There will always be somebody who finds a way to not find the information that's blatantly obvious in front of them. When I'm on your website, I'm the biggest idiot there is. So you've got to understand that you're always going to have the one just they don't know where that stuff is. But you can learn from them and you can say, okay, this one got through. They didn't find what they wanted. How can we better explain, or how can we provide something a little bit more, without getting in the red flashing neon signs going, click here, click here. You can't fix everybody. You can't fix everything, and there's always going to be conflicts. But you just do the best that you can.
Okay, thank you. Ernest?
Yeah, so I would just go back to a couple things that we talked about today. So one being start with mobile first. That wasn't something that I did 7 years ago when I decided to really take digital marketing and my online presence serious. So I would highly suggest that you do that. And we also talked about not having to guess, right? Take the guesswork out of what you need to do and how you need to do it by leveraging tools for market research. And then along with that, making sure that you have your tracking set up so you could see what type of behaviors are occurring on your business, right? Because that's going to be super duper powerful for you to be able to make educated decisions on what to do and how to do it. So yeah, let's soak that in and let's make sure we go out and execute on it.
All right, sounds great. So I'll just ask one more time, any more questions from the audience? I will also just mention, Jacob, I think has put it in the chat, but we have two alignable groups that really are aligned, no pun intended there, with this conversation. And one is Ask Small Business Owners Anything, and the other one is online, I can't think of it. Online stores. There you go. Online stores. So just two great groups to really further this conversation and share advice and tips with other small business owners. And then I will just mention, this importance on supporting small business is something that Alignable takes very seriously. And we have a great movement that we've just started. It's hashtag #ONE, so hashtag One Main Street. And what we're asking all of you to do, and what I'm going to challenge you with today, is take a picture of yourself supporting a local business and pop it on social media with the hashtag One Main Street. It's just a great way to shine the light and bring the reminder to everyone that we really do need to support all of you and the great work that you're doing to really drive and keep our communities thriving. So I'm going to thank you so much, Ernest, Matt, and Stony. Really great conversations today. It was a lot of fun. For the audience, you're welcome to hang on the line here. There's also another session starting right at the top of the hour that is focused on customer review. So one of the great things we talked about today on how to find them, where to get them, where to put them, where to put your focus. So look forward to talking to you all about that shortly. Thanks so much.
And here's the voice of God, who's
there
wrapping up this session. Thank you all for attending this session of Small Biz Aid Live, and especially thank you to our panelists. You guys were absolutely terrific. As Maureen mentioned, to continue the conversation, please join the Alignable small business groups that have been linked in chat. Recordings of this session will be available within 48 hours, and links to each of the recorded sessions will be provided on our event page within the agenda. Those archived recordings will be free. Thank you again and have a great day, everyone. If you want to stay for the next session, please stay here and you will be automatically loaded into the next session if you want to stick around. Thanks so much, everybody.